As a small business owner, you have questions. Will my cash flow cover expenses? How do I get understandable, actionable reports about my business? What is the best option for raising capital? Clarity CFO is your finance partner that thinks like an entrepreneur. We're all about helping you improve cash flow, meet opportunities with confidence, and grow your business. Visit our website at www.claritycfo.com to receive a free review of your business metrics and to start getting answers to your questions. Cash flow, confidence, growth. Visit claritycfo.com today.
Small business owners and CEOs, where do you turn for objective counsel on your most critical business decisions? How do you assure your personal growth as a CEO? How do you get an unbiased review of your plans and strategic direction? What provisions are you making for perpetuation of your business beyond yourself? For over 20 years, CEO Builder has been the answer to these questions for many Utah CEOs. Join us for a complimentary forum or coaching session through our website at www.ceobuilder.com.
As a small business owner, you are not just building a business, you're building a legacy. Let the attorneys at Callister, Nebaker, and McCullough counsel and assist you as you navigate the legal complexities of organizing, financing, and operating a successful business. At Callister, Nebaker, and McCullough, we build, cultivate, and defend legacies. Your business, your family, your future. To learn more about how we can help, call 801-530-7300 or visit us online at cnmlaw.com. That's cnmlaw.com.
It's tough for small businesses to keep up with all the new regulations, the new healthcare law, employee handbooks, human resources, OSHA safety, employment discrimination and harassment, business insurance, workers' compensation. It is all so complicated. Most business owners are doing their best just to make a small profit. If there were only a simplified way to manage all of this, now there is. Summit Risk Management and Insurance can show you how. www.summit-risk.com. That's summit-risk.com.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
Good morning, Utah small business owners. Welcome to the Small Business Hour with your hosts, Mark Hunter and Chris Brown. It's time for your business to go from small to large.
Good morning, Utah business owners. This is Chris Brown with my friend Mark Hunter here, and we're happy to be joining you again today for another edition of the Utah Small Business Hour here on K-Talk. And remember, our entire goal here is to help promote, educate, and support Utah small businesses, and there's a lot of different ways that we do that, including this radio program, and then, of course, our workshops, which are going to be starting up in October, where a lot of the folks that you've heard on our program will be providing more in-depth information and direct support on really important business topics.
And we want to encourage businesses to support other locally owned small businesses as well.
Absolutely. You know, keep your dollars in the local economy as much as you can so that you can really see where your money is helping out. Who are our sponsors today, Mark?
Yeah, great. So Callister, Nebaker, and McCullough, they've been on our show. They're a local law firm, and they help small businesses with intellectual property, contracts, employment law, asset protection, basically handle all your business needs. So they're cnmlaw.com. And IT Now, who is an outsourced IT service. They help companies with PC, network services all throughout Utah, hardware, software support. So itnow.net, they actually have been supporting our company for a number of years.
Yeah, and it's really important to have a good team for all of your business needs, and those are two great companies that can help support you in two totally different but very important ways. And that's what we like to bring to your attention are individuals and entities that can really help your business be better at whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for today's show, Mark, we've got a special guest here, Jay from Foresight Wealth Management. I want to make sure I say the whole thing correctly because I'm always messing up people's names. It's one of my real areas of expertise.
It's a talent.
It's a talent. It's a talent. And so Jay's going to be talking to us about retirement plans, and particularly in the context of a small business. And one of the things we mentioned last week when we were kind of previewing this show is that a lot of small business owners, they kind of look as their small business as being their retirement vehicle. I own this business. It's going to be worth a lot of money someday. I can sell it off. I can whatever, and that's how I'm going to retire. But then we see all these small business owners who don't have anything when they retire, and so
They
I
keep
think
working.
They keep working. Yeah, they never retire. And so I think that it'll be good to hear about some of the benefits for the business owner of having a retirement plan, because obviously there's some benefits there. But I think there's other, maybe less tangible benefits for the business when it comes to attracting and retaining employees. So why don't we just start there and talk about why would a business that doesn't have a retirement plan want to get one? Because it sounds to me just like a big expense if I'm, Joe Blow business owner.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. So many business owners I run into, their plan is to grow the business, sell it off, and that's their retirement plan. And sometimes that works, and I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing that, but sometimes it doesn't work. And it's good to have a plan B.
Right.
And that's what's important for business owners to consider. So a lot of business owners, they set up the plan for themselves. And it's a good way for them to save for retirement and prepare for that time in their life.
And just diversification as well. I mean, if you're relying entirely upon your business as for your future wealth, I mean, there could be a regulatory change that puts you out of business. There could be some big shift in demographics or markets or whatever the case might be that, Mark and I are both in the insurance business, and sometimes it seems like the government really wants to put the insurance business out of business.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, like when our show was with Social 5, we talked about, the yellow pages. So industry changes. You gotta be prepared.
Yeah. So what are some of the concerns that a business owner will usually bring up when you're talking to them about a retirement plan?
Well, one of the big concerns they have, and you hit on it, is possibly fees. That they may look at it as an expense. And I hear that quite a bit. But there are actually a lot of options for business owners that don't need to cost them a dime. I just helped a company recently set up a plan. They had about 20 employees, and we set up a company retirement plan for them, and it didn't cost the business owner a dime.
So it was basically fully funded through employee contributions then, or?
Yeah, the administration, the setup, there weren't any costs associated with that.
Okay. Did the business owner also plan to participate in the plan, or was it just for the employees?
Yes. Business owner, he planned to participate, but he was looking to grow the business. And as you mentioned before, a retirement plan could be a great way to retain employees and attract new employees. Employees today are looking for more than just a good paycheck. They also want benefits, health insurance, vacation time, and a retirement plan is part of that. And for companies to retain those employees that are good quality and they want to keep, that's a big factor for them.
Well, and the employment market's changing dramatically right now, or has changed over the last year or so. It's a lot more competitive.
It's becoming competitive again. And also, as far as the benefits mix, particularly for a small employer, one thing that we've seen with the companies that we work with is that the health plan is becoming a little bit less important now that people have more options on their own. And now they're looking at what other types of benefits can they offer if maybe they're reducing their expense on the health plan.
Absolutely. It's becoming standard now that a company retirement plan is something that employees are looking for.
Yeah.
And they're interviewing employers saying, what can you offer me besides a salary? And that 401k or retirement plan is one of those options.
Well, and you brought up an interesting point, Chris, because with the Affordable Care Act, it's really made a massive shift for small employers, at least under 50 employees. And so now all of a sudden there's potential dollars there and
that are freed up.
Well, and in the past, a health plan was there because individuals couldn't necessarily get coverage on their own. And so now that's no longer a thing of they
might get it cheaper on their own.
Right.
So let's put that money into something else.
In a retirement plan, or now employees are looking for a retirement plan as now this benefit.
That's the next big benefit that they expect.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So when we talk about retirement plans, that's sort of talking about things generally. And if I'm a small business owner, I probably don't want to set up a big defined benefit pension plan. So I guess I could try. But assuming that I don't want to do that, what are the options out there for me?
Well, there's a lot of options specifically set up for small business owners. One of them is an IRA, an individual retirement account. And a lot of individuals think this is for just personal people on their own. And it's actually not. We can set that up through payroll deductions where it can be set up as a company retirement plan. And the business owner contribute, the employees can contribute, and it can run through payroll as a plan.
Now, is that different than like a simple IRA, or are we talking about a similar vehicle here? What is it?
Good question. It's very similar. With a traditional IRA, there isn't a required match. So it's great for business owners that want to set something up but are concerned about costs or expenses. There's no cost to set them up, and there's no match required. A simple IRA is nice because it allows a little bit higher contribution, but does maybe require a match.
Right. Or, I've had a lot of clients who have done a non-elective simple IRA where they were doing, I don't remember the percentage, but there's a fixed percentage of salary basically that they just
3%.
3%, yeah. Now, just another question that I run into is then we have a SEP, which sounds like it might be the same thing, but it isn't. So how is that different?
SEPs are great for sole proprietors. A SEP, employees are not allowed to contribute. So as a business owner, if I had 10 employees, why in the world would I want to set up a plan that the employees can't contribute? Well, I wouldn't, and then I would use a SEP IRA. What's nice about a SEP IRA is much higher contribution limits. I can put up to $49,000 potentially into a SEP IRA. Mm-hmm. And in a good year, I can contribute, and if business isn't so good one year, I don't have to contribute. Mm-hmm. So a lot of flexibility about how
So much higher limit than if I just went out and got a traditional IRA.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what is that limit on the traditional?
On a traditional IRA, if you're under 50, it's $5,500 a year.
Okay.
Over 50, it's $6,500 a year.
So the SEP makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, it seems to make a lot of sense to me. We don't want to be giving anyone financial advice over the radio. But I'll disclaim already on my behalf, I have no business giving financial
Please stop
advice.
talking, Chris.
Okay. But so it sounds to me like the advantage of a SEP, like you say, is that if I have a really good year, I can make a much larger contribution than under a traditional IRA. And if the next year's lousy, then no big deal. I don't make as big of a contribution.
Exactly. I mean, with a lot of business owners that we sit down and look at an IRA and they can only put $5,500 away a year, and they're just they're not going to meet their retirement goals putting that much away. They need to be able to contribute more. And that's when we can look to a simple or a SEP IRA for higher contributions.
Okay. So then there's another really common vehicle out there, but we hear about it more with big business, which is a 401k. When does a 401k potentially make sense for a smaller firm?
Well, it used to be 401ks were for large firms, and that's what everybody thought of them as. But now with technology and price reduction, and we've used them for small companies. Mm-hmm. I just recently had a contractor. It was he and his brother. They were just a partnership, and we set up a 401k for them. They had no employees. It was just the two of them.
Okay. And the advantage of that over, let's say, a simple IRA would be a higher contribution amount?
Yes. In a 401k, they were able to set it up that they could put away $17,500 per year. They actually added their spouses on payroll, listed them as employees, and the spouse could also contribute.
Up to that same limit?
Up to that same limit.
Okay.
And most people assume that you have to do a company match with a 401k, but it's not true. And you have flexibility. They set up a 100% company match, which means if they put in $17,500, the company put in $17,500. And that was for each of them. So they were able to contribute quite a bit, and again, had the flexibility to contribute in good years, but not so much in bad years.
Now, here's a question for you. Right now they have no employees. What happens if they get employees? Are they now...
Good question. You may not want to do a 100% company match for employees. So they have the option to change that at any time. We set it up as a discretionary match, which means they can change that as the company grows and adds employees. They can change that matching contribution if need be to fit their goals.
So, one thing that, we hear a lot of people concerned about is they say, well, look at how volatile the markets have been over the past decade. What if you've got a business owner or they want to offer a plan to their employees that insulates them a little bit from market volatility? I mean, if they have one of these plans, are they going to be completely exposed to the ups and downs of the national indexes, or what?
Not necessarily. A lot of people assume if they set up a retirement plan, they have to throw their money in the stock market casino.
Right.
to them. And that's not the case. There's a lot of investment options out there that we put in plans that for those that want to ride that roller coaster, they can. But for those that want to be protected or have a little bit of defense mechanism in those volatile markets, they have options.
Okay. Now, sometimes, people are really upset because they were in a company-sponsored plan like a 401k and they lost money. What does that mean when they say that they lost money? What are they talking about? Are they talking about stock market volatility? I mean, the 401k didn't just lose their money.
Yes, good question. A lot of people get confused about what is a retirement plan and what is investment. I'll hear employees say, I hate my 401k, I lost money. Well, the 401k did not lose the money. It was the investments that they chose that lost the money. And I've seen companies that have discontinued a plan because they lost money in it when really it was the investments they had in the plan.
So it was really the choices that the individuals made, not because the 401k itself can't really lose money because it's just a vehicle to get money from someone's paycheck into some equity or whatever the case might be.
Actually, a 401k is just a line item in an IRS code. That's all it is. It's the investments that either grow or lose money depending on the choice. And it may not necessarily be a bad choice. The market may have just gone down.
Okay. So when we're talking about sort of retirement planning in general, so I mean, what are the characteristics of a retirement plan versus opening just a regular brokerage account or something like that? What makes a retirement plan different than other ways that we might invest?
Good question. So retirement plan, I try and have my clients think of it as an umbrella. All it does is shield their investments from taxes. And depending on how they structure that plan will determine how the taxes are treated, both money going in and money coming out.
Okay.
And that's why it doesn't make or lose money, but it can determine how the money's taxed.
And many times the money's going in on a tax-free basis, like with a 401k or a simple, I believe. But then, of course, the tax man cometh. How does that work on the other side?
So there's two different options. There's traditional accounts that most people are familiar with. That's a tax write-off. So any money going in goes in before tax. Mm-hmm. And then it's taxed when it comes out at retirement.
Right.
And on the other side of the coin is a Roth account. And a Roth, the money is taxed before it goes in, and then there's no tax when it comes out.
Now, is that first example, is that a qualified plan?
They're both qualified. Qualified plan means that it has special tax benefits, would be a qualified. A non-qualified plan would be something like a brokerage account that you mentioned that has no tax benefits. The money's taxed as it's earned.
So I guess in theory, if someone's the amount of their investment goes down, they've already had a tax advantage. So part of that's the government that's taking the hit too.
Potentially, yeah. And so it's important to look at a business owner or employee's goals and where they think taxes will be in the future. And do they want the tax write-off today, or do they want the tax write-off in the future? When will it benefit them most is what they need to determine.
And it's so hard to know the future. I mean, I think the general assumption for most people is that, well, in the future I'll have less income, presumably, and so
lower
I'll
tax
be at a lower
bracket.
rate. But I mean, there's no guarantee there.
No guarantee. And what a lot of people fail to consider is when they're in their working years and saving, they generally have kids at home or a mortgage. These are all write-offs. And when they reach retirement, hopefully the kids are gone, hopefully the mortgage is paid for or close to it, and they've lost those write-offs.
Right. So their tax rate might theoretically be lower, but they're not reducing their taxable income with all of those deductions that they have right now.
Correct. So it's important to take that into consideration. And the way the government's spending money, I run into a lot of people that are concerned about higher tax rates in the future.
Right. And so for those people, they might look at something more like a Roth plan, where they're going ahead and taking the hit now. And we'll talk about this a little more after the break. But I'd be interested in knowing how gains are treated in a Roth plan, because presumably these investments are going to appreciate in value, and so I'd be interested in hearing about so not just the amount that went in. Because if we're a traditional IRA, we're not paying tax on the amount that goes in, but then we've got this gain that occurs over time. So when we come back from the break, I'd be really interested in hearing about how that happens on a Roth plan, since that sounds like it might be a good option for a lot of people. So we'll be back in just a minute.
WD-40
There are 5 key questions every successful business owner asks every day. How can we increase innovation? How can we reduce operating costs? How can we grow our sales and market share? How can we create new products and stay cutting edge? And how can we improve our cash flow? By Monday's Howcanology web app answers all of those questions by empowering your employees to become valuable, producing entrepreneurs. Contact By Monday at 801-225-1600 to learn more about Howcanology.
As a small business owner, I have struggled with controlling my workers' compensation costs. Some of my injured workers have really taken advantage of the system, costing me an arm and a leg, no pun intended. I finally found someone who can help, Summit Risk Management and Insurance. They have saved my company thousands of dollars on my insurance costs and have improved my safety program. I recommend them to any business owner. www.summit-risk.com. That's summit-risk.com.
If you own a small business, you've experienced problems with technology. Lost files, server crash, blue screen of death. It always means one thing, an IT nightmare that keeps you from running your business. IT Now keeps those IT nightmares at bay. IT Now is the leading provider of professional IT services for small and medium businesses. Call IT Now today for a free network evaluation, and soon you could be nightmare-free and experience the bliss of things running as they should. 801-562-8778.
Phil, your golf game is amazing. Where do you find the time?
I've been using ADP for my business, the world leader in payroll services. I manage my payroll, retirement plan, and HR all on my iPad, mobile app, or with a quick phone call. It's easy and really affordable.
I'm just so busy. Sounds great. How do I get a quote?
Call Dave at 800-422-3705. He's been with ADP here in Utah for 15 years.
Thanks. That number was 800-422-3705.
Okay, we're back with Jay, and right before the break, we were talking about, I was wondering about how the taxation worked on a Roth, because presumably we've experienced some gains during that time. So what gets taxed when we start taking that money out of a Roth?
Well, that's what my bias is towards a Roth. I really like those Roth accounts because those gains are really never taxed. And there aren't a lot of places you can invest money nowadays and not pay any tax on that gain. Particularly for young investors. Most of the money that will be in that account at retirement will be gains.
Right.
And those gains come out tax-free.
Right. So that's a big advantage over a traditional account that could have appreciated greatly in value. So you might have taken a really small tax deduction in your earning years, but now you're paying a really big tax when you take the money out because of how much you've increased the value of that account, presumably over time.
Exactly. We sometimes have clients think of it as a farmer. If you have a handful of seeds, you can pay the tax on that handful of seeds today, or you can plant those seeds, grow a large orchard, and then pay the tax on that large orchard. Most people would choose to pay the tax on the seed.
On the seeds.
And then keep that large...
But there's a lot of bias in employer-sponsored plans towards the traditional sort of pre-tax option. Why do you think that's the case?
Because the traditional accounts have been around a lot longer.
Okay.
Roth accounts are fairly new, and I still run into companies that have plans set up that aren't aware of the Roth option or don't know how to get it added.
So is the Roth option available on all of the different types of arrangements we've discussed, 401ks, SEPs, Simples, or is it only apply to certain types of plans?
It's not available on everything. A Simple and a SEP, a Roth option, is not available.
Okay.
But on an IRA, an individual account, and a 401k, definitely available. And I run into a lot of companies that have 401ks that have not added that Roth option.
I've got a question for you, Jay. So if somebody, say it's a business owner, can that business owner set up a SEP and fund that with pre-tax dollars, I guess, or tax-deductible dollars, and then also a traditional IRA as well, and then do that as a Roth?
It generally gets a little complicated. It depends on income amounts. There's limitations to it. That's something where it's important to sit down with an advisor and look at your options and decide what can you do and can't you do. I run into a lot of people that make assumptions and set up multiple accounts at multiple places, make many, many contributions that they shouldn't be.
Right.
And it's a big
Could
mess
have some
to
ugly
untangle
tax
that.
consequences, I would imagine, if we do that incorrectly.
Yes. So it's important to sit down with an advisor that knows what can be done and can't be done.
Well, speaking about advisors, I mean, a couple of years ago, and we saw this sort of with the Enron explosion and when some other companies kind of went down, there was a lot of talk about reforming the way 401ks operated and were structured, and there was concerns about fees and the degree to which the employer was directing the funds. Can you just kind of talk to us a little bit about how there's been regulatory or enforcement changes on how 401ks are operated today?
Yeah, fees in 401ks are attracting a lot of media attention, and rightfully so. 401k companies, providers have been able to pull fees out of those employee accounts without the employees being aware of that, and that's a problem, obviously. So back in 2012...
Was there effectively no limit? They could just kind of just yank out money whenever they wanted? Was it like Wild West of fees?
It was in the fine print.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of companies, a lot of employees weren't aware, and still to this day, still aren't aware.
So it was limited on what was in the agreement.
Yes. Yeah.
But the agreement could say something that perhaps you would have never agreed to had you
Read
known
the fine
about
print.
it. Right. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the way the 401k product was set up by the insurance industry and Wall Street, and some of these products have been set up where they may not be in the employee's best interest.
Okay.
And so the Department of Labor wants to fix this, and they came out with new regulation in 2012.
Okay. And what does that new regulation say, in general?
Basically, what they're trying to do is make sure that anybody that is taking fees from a 401k account needs to disclose that and also disclose the services they're providing so that companies or plan sponsors can determine, is this fee reasonable for the services I'm being offered?
So if I'm a 401k provider and I want to have I checked your balance today fee of $10, I would have to disclose that, and then someone could say, well, I don't really want to pay $10 for you to check the balance on my account.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So it's hard to negotiate down a fee or remove a fee if you're unaware it's there. So the idea is if all these fees are brought to light, that the plan sponsors or company owners will go back to the providers and try and reduce these fees or make changes.
Or just use a different provider, I guess, if they've got a provider that's yanking a lot of fees. What sort of fees? I mean, so just give us an idea of what kind of fees we're talking about here. What's the amounts or percentages, or how does that work?
They vary quite a bit, and most employees and business owners are quite shocked when we sit down and do a review on their 401k to realize that these fees are coming out on an annual basis, and generally they're set up as a percentage of the assets in the plan. And the 401k industry set it up this way because assets in the plan generally grow over time.
Right.
Which means those fees back to the provider also grow. And just a small percentage can have a really large effect on an employee's account over time.
Well, I've talked to companies that rolled over 401ks from one provider to another, and there may have been several $1 million under management, and so in effect, that whole amount was subject to fees. Yes. Even if I don't want to pick on the providers, but they may not have really been doing anything, but there were fees that they could assess on that balance.
Absolutely. So I try and help employees look at it as a mortgage. If somebody came along and offered to save you 1/4 point on your mortgage, you would jump on that because it saves a lot of money over time.
Sure.
Same thing in your 401k. If you're going to be invested for 10, 20, 30 years, compounding even a small percentage can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to an employee over time.
That's a great way of looking at it. I've never thought of it that way.
So I sit down with a lot of business owners, we review the fees and find out they're maybe paying maybe 0.5% or 1% more than they should be, and they don't think it's a big deal until we start running the numbers and they realize that it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, sure. I mean, 0.5% on a few $1 million every year really is a lot of money, and that money is kind of hurting everybody, right? Because the employer's putting money in, the employees are putting in, so everybody, it's a sort of a shared loss.
Yes, it adds up, and so the Department of Labor, through these regulations, are trying to bring these fees to light and motivate business owners to make changes in the plans.
Now, I've got a question on that relative to the business owner. Is there any type of responsibility on the part of the business owner is really the plan sponsor in these types of plans?
Correct.
So
yes.
as a plan sponsor, what types of, if any, responsibility do they have?
Good question. Most business owners don't realize that they have all the responsibilities. For a business owner, if they want to buy a new copier or a new piece of equipment and they want to overpay for that equipment, they're more than welcome to do it. It's their equipment, it's their business. But with a 401k plan, they are providing that for the employees. And it's their responsibility to make sure those fees are reasonable for those employees. So
how does a business owner know that, if they're reasonable or not?
Good question. So one of the best ways we've found to do that is accept proposals. Take your plan out for bid and find out what other providers, other advisors are charging and make a comparison. But the first step and the most important step is finding out what you're paying. And a lot of business owners don't take that first step to really understand their fees.
So instead of the fine print, are they being disclosed in a 20 font now, or 50 font, or what are we talking about here?
Funny you should ask. They did make the disclosures, but these crafty 401k providers made sure the disclosures were fairly complicated. I've seen disclosures that were 30 and 40 pages long.
Gosh,
that even I have a hard time going through and discerning what's what.
What's interesting is that in the health insurance market, there's this relatively new document called an SBC, and the whole purpose of that was so that people would have a short, concise explanation of what their benefits were, including costs and fees and everything else. Seems like it'd be good if there was that sort of requirement on the 401k market.
The Department of Labor is actually going back and looking at new regulations to provide a summary document.
Exactly. That's a true summary, not a 100-page summary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners aren't aware of this new regulation, and they were sent out these fee disclosures, and they get paperwork all the time, and they filed it away and never even looked at it.
Right.
And that's pretty common.
Now, another question I had, we've heard a lot recently about automatic enrollment in 401ks. Now, I think that's something that just applies to larger firms, or are all companies being encouraged to do that sort of automatic enrollment, or is that... I just have heard about it. I don't really know any of the specifics.
I think it's a great benefit for all companies of all sizes. What the auto enroll does is it takes the human behavior out of the equation. Human behavior, we are slow to act. And so if a 401k is provided to an employee, they may be slow to act and enroll. They may not have anything against the 401k and may want to, but they just don't act to make that happen. So auto enroll enrolls them in the plan automatically. And then if they don't want to be in the plan, they can get out.
They can out. Now, what happens to the money when someone auto enrolls? I mean, presumably that just doesn't get invested in like the riskiest stock in the market or something. I mean, where does that go?
Right. So when employees auto enrolled, they still have the option to pick their investments. So they can be as aggressive or conservative as they would like to be and have complete freedom over the investment choice. It just enrolls them in the plan and takes the action.
So it starts setting the money aside. It doesn't necessarily invest it in any particular thing.
It does invest it, and so most plans have a default investment that would be a balanced fund. So it won't be the most conservative, it may not be the most aggressive, but it may be a balanced fund, and there's a lot of options there.
Who picks that balanced fund?
Generally, we sit down with the plan sponsor, the business owner, and we help decide what would be the best fit for their company.
Okay, for that default.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it has to go somewhere, right? If they're
That's right.
Now, on those automatic elections, is that including a salary reduction for the employee? I mean, is it including an employee contribution, or is it solely just the employer's money? How does that typically work?
So it depends. Some companies. I just recently helped a company that is having a hard time with participation. They have a lot of employees, and the employees just aren't taking the initiative to get in the plan. So they offer a great company match. So we are going to start an auto enroll feature, and that's going to increase the expense to the company, but they're willing to do that to help their employees out. So it will be both from the employee and from the company that will be put in their account.
Well, I've heard that the participation rates go up as high as like 80% when companies do the auto enroll. It seems that, I guess somebody might get upset that they were automatically enrolled, but the majority of people seem okay with it from what I've heard anecdotally.
Right. Yes. We get very, very few employees that are upset about it. Most employees get enrolled and they don't miss the money from their check. And pretty soon they start getting statements where they've got money in their account and they actually get excited about it and oftentimes will increase the amount they're putting in the plan.
Is there a certain size employer that is mandatory to do the auto enroll, or can only certain size companies do the auto enroll?
No, there's no minimum, there's no maximum, there's no requirements. It's completely up to the employer.
But it's sort of been encouraged, right? It seems like the government has, I don't know why, I got the impression that there was some encouragement to do that.
It's a trend. I wouldn't say that there's been regulation or encouragement, but it is a trend that we're seeing to try and increase that participation with employees.
Now, when we're getting close to the end of our segment here, just a couple other things I wanted to ask you about. So when someone's in a retirement plan, a lot of people want to sort of change the mix over time. With no specific advice, I mean, what are the ages that people might want to look at? Hey, I need to reevaluate the mix of investments or securities or whatever it is that I have in my retirement account.
Again, I recommend that employees would sit down with a qualified advisor and discuss that. I have employees that are very young that maybe are afraid of the market and want to be conservative, and I have clients that are in retirement that want to be very aggressive. So it really depends on the individual.
So it's not. I know that there are some these automatic mutual funds that sort of change over time. Are those very popular? Or?
Yes, their target date funds are very, very popular. They will change the investment based on when the employee or investor will retire.
Okay. Hey, before we get too far, Jay, why don't you tell people how they can get a hold of you?
Okay. Again, it's Jay Wells with Foresight Wealth Management. We're located in Sandy, 8915 South, 700 East. And office number is 801-462-2200.
Okay, that's great. And we'd love to have you again some other time and maybe talk more specifically about some of the, particularly for the employer, some of those fiduciary obligations that sometimes an employer sponsors a plan and they don't really realize what they're into. We see that a lot in other types of employee benefits where they thought it was all somebody else's problem. They hired a company to do it and it was all someone else's problem, and they don't realize that they've got some exposure there too. So that'd be a great topic to come back to at some point in the future. Thanks for coming on.
It's time for this week's First Utah Business Spotlight.
Okay, Mark Hunter back with Eric McHenry. Eric is the owner of Viking Automotive, and you've been in business for 5 years. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so Viking Automotive is an automotive repair and maintenance shop. We service all makes and models of vehicles. We work on all types of repairs, so that would be your brakes, your engines, your transmissions, safety and emissions, tires, pretty much everything except for painting the car.
Tell us about your beginnings of your company, how you got started in it.
Yeah, so Viking Automotive, I started it actually out of the bed of my pickup truck.
Okay.
So I worked at the dealership and a couple other independent stores and just didn't like a lot of the aspects that are in these big name places of the constant upsell of, go in for the oil change and come out with a $700 bill with a list of stuff.
I hate that.
List of stuff that you have to have done.
And that's where a lot of auto mechanic places really get a bad name.
Yeah, it's industry wide, and we're trying to. I always tell the guys we'd love to change the stereotypical auto shop, So I started in the bed of my pickup truck, and through good, hard, honest work and taking care of customers, I've grown it to where we're at now. We've got 11 bays and, multiple mechanics running through the shop and doing what we need to do.
So you can service a lot of vehicles, it sounds like.
Yes.
So starting out of the back of your pickup truck, what's your experience? Why are you qualified to do what you do?
So I'm Ford Master certified. My technicians all have their ASE Master certified, their Master certifications, and a lot of them have come from dealerships also. One of them came from Chrysler. One of them has been doing it for 40 years. He worked at multiple dealerships. My newest employee, he came from the Honda dealership.
So I take it when you come from a dealership, you're going to have been through quite a bit of training
Yes.
from that dealership?
Yeah, the dealership sends you through a lot of training, and you get to see the latest and greatest.
You told me off air a little bit about how you kind of got into this business and a scholarship that you earned. Just take a second and explain that, because that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so in high school they have what they call the AAA Ford contest, and the dealership brought a bunch of cars over to Salt Lake Community College, and they had rigged them. They wouldn't start, the check engine light was on, the turn signals didn't work, the tail light was out, and they basically blew a big air horn, and the first person to fix it the fastest wins. Just go be a mechanic is really what the point of it is you don't know what the issue the car's going to have, figure it out, fix it correctly, and do it quickly.
Sure. So that took
So
a
I
lot
got
of...
I got a full ride scholarship to Ford dealership training for that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So that's kind of how you got your start.
Yeah.
Neat. So I picked up that you do both for individuals and families and whatnot, but also for fleet. You have fleet customers. So what do you do there that maybe helps a business with a fleet of vehicles?
Yeah, a major thing that helps the fleet customers is they want to run their business. A business owner doesn't want to have to be an automotive shop, you know. One of our big fleets, they've got 48 vans running around, and they want to do what they do best and not have to worry about, you know, what the vans are doing. So we have a complete system where I came in and trained their employees on how to check their own vehicles. It's a quick 10-point check that they do every single week.
Oh, so you're educating them.
Educating the contractor and his employees so that they're not abusing his trucks, so that it cuts down on their repair cost. The other thing that we can do with a fleet customer is we have a tracking system that we can track all 48 vans. So if we say, hey, van number 27 is going to need brakes in 6 months, we are keeping track of that. It's
and
not going to
notifying them, email or something like that.
Yeah, we have an email, we have a phone call, and we notify them that, you know, this is coming up. They can work it into their budget. So we've been able to cut their catastrophic repair orders down to maintenance level.
So do you have an example of a company, what you've been able to do and maybe save them with that scenario?
Yeah, so like I said, our big 48 car fleet, it's an electrician company, and we've cut their average repair order. When they first started coming to us, it was $1,500 to $1,800 every time they showed up. So in the beginning, you know, sure, it's great for me, you know, it's $1,500 every time. But now that we've got them checking their vehicles, they check the antifreeze before it overheats and blows an engine, we've cut their average repair order down to $600 to $700.
Wow.
And if you can do that across 48 vans, I mean, you do the math. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely. That's a huge savings.
Yeah.
Well, I really like, I'm sitting in your office, and back behind you, you've got a whiteboard with all these notes on it, and it seems like you're very well organized. I see flow charts in here with your office and what you're doing from start to finish. You explained to me this flow chart that helps you manage the job from start to finish, how you greet the customer, and you want to explain that just really quick?
Sure. So this is where a customer comes in, and this is your job flowing all the way through our shop here. So from greeting the customer and seeing us, to the diagnostics, to getting it authorized. We won't do any work without your go-ahead. We won't spend your money without you. That's one thing that we just refuse to do. We'd rather, you know, hustle later or put 2 guys on a job to get you finished in the same day versus spend $600 without you knowing it.
That's good.
So that's kind of where this is, and then it gets done. We do a quality control check on every single job. We're checking for our greasy boot prints. My guys are in the grease and stuff, and sometimes they get a greasy boot print, and our quality control will check that. We'll clean the carpet so that you don't ever have to come back and say, I grabbed my steering wheel and now I look like I've been working on the car.
Right, totally annoying.
Yeah, so we have quality control check all the way through till the end till you come and pick your car up or we deliver it to you.
That's great. Sounds like you do a lot of value-added services to the customer. So
yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks.
Are you frustrated about your sales performance? Do you have the right people on your team? Are you stuck in a routine in terms of business development? Sandler Training is a global leader in sales and business development training and has been creating solutions and accelerating the success of high achievers for over 30 years. If it's time to take your business to the next level, contact Sandler Training at 801-639-0488. 801-639-0488. Is your business struggling with the cost of an employer-sponsored health insurance plan? Learn how your business and employees may benefit from new rules under the Affordable Care Act. There's no reason for you to continue bearing this unnecessary cost. Call the experts at Summit Risk Management and Insurance, 801-671-2431. That's 801-671-2431. Learn more at www.summit-risk.com. That's summit-risk.com.
If your business doesn't have social and mobile marketing strategies in today's digital marketing place, then you're quickly getting left behind. Don't get left behind, get Social 5. Social 5's team of professional writers, graphic artists, and tech experts helps businesses with mobile, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, email, SEO, campaigns, contests, plus more. For a free consultation, go to social5.com. Don't be invisible in today's digital marketplace. Get Social 5.
It's tough for small businesses to keep up with all the new regulations, the new healthcare law, employee handbooks, human resources, OSHA safety, employment discrimination and harassment, business insurance, workers' compensation. It is all so complicated. Most business owners are doing their best just to make a small profit. If there were only a simplified way to manage all of this, now there is. Summit Risk Management and Insurance can show you how. www.summit-risk.com. That's summit-risk.com.
Welcome back. Here's our second Utah Business Spotlight for the week.
Okay, welcome back. This is Mark Hunter, and I'm here today with TJ Warner with Warner Construction. And TJ, you're the Vice President and Controller.
That is correct.
Okay, great. And just tell us about your business. What do you guys do?
We are a commercial general contractor, and our whole role is to basically manage the project. Our responsibility is to the owner, and so we are contracted with the owner to get the project done. And our responsibility is from the time the project, actually from the time the project bids, and if we're awarded the bid, until the very end of the day, we are responsible to that everything is in compliance and quality, and we schedule subcontractors and just make sure that the project is finished as the owner would want it.
So TJ, tell me about the types of projects that your company does.
So we do a lot of work for the church, the LDS Church, and I would say about 80% of our business is for the church, and the rest are for projects for the Alpine School District, or I should say the school districts within Utah County and Salt Lake County. We've done some state work. One company was the Wasatch Mental Health. We've done some remodels for them, and we've done some city work like Spanish Fork City and Saratoga Springs.
So the size of the projects that you typically work on, as far as how big are the projects? They're remodeling and new construction.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say our projects would range from $20,000 up to about $5 million.
What differentiates your business from other general contractors?
I think the most important is relationships. My father, or me and my dad, co-founded this company in 2011, but before that, he had ran a business with a partner. Having that partnership, he gained relationships, a lot of it with the LDS Church. And with those relationships, we were able to bid on these projects as a brand new company, which takes a lot to bid on projects for the church, just because they're so specific and have such high expectations for their work. And so by bidding on some of these and getting awarded it, they had found that we were the same business or even better than the previous business, and we keep getting opportunities to work for them. So just the relationship, I believe, with my father that had kind of helped start us, but just the quality of work that we do now, it has continued to help us.
So TJ, it seems that as you do work with the LDS Church, that you're held to certain standards there. And how does that impact your subs that you work with and the work that they're doing for the LDS Church and meeting those standards compared to other subs?
I think it plays a huge advantage to our business, because with the expectation that of the church, a lot of our subcontractors will go to other projects that we're doing, like for the school districts and some of the state work, and we had come to a relationship with these subcontractors, and we get to know them, and we know their work, and we know that if they're on our job, that the project is going to go smoothly and the quality will be there. And it's with this industry, you get a lot of subcontractors that come and will submit a bid that you have no idea who they are and what kind of work they are or work that they do. And so it's a gamble. But when you get these subs, and it seems like these subcontractors can make or break a project, that you build this relationship with the subs and you also see their quality of work. It's such a relief to get a company that does that kind of work, and it just helps the projects go smoothly, and it helps the quality of work to be there. And it definitely it helps us with these other projects that we bid on other than the church's work.
Right, so it extends over into these other projects, so these other owners are benefiting from those relationships with the subs and the quality of work that they're doing.
Exactly.
Materials. All right. Well, TJ, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah.
Appreciate your comments, and nice to learn about your company, but most importantly, understand the importance of relationships and also expertise and niching in what you do. Appreciate you being with us today.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Well, those were two great segments, Mark. I mean, just two interesting businesses. Viking Automotive, I was really impressed by sort of the systematic way that they're working on growing a business that just, started out in the back of a pickup truck. And now they've got, 11 bays and are really taking a very systematic approach to growth.
Yeah, I loved how he had everything laid out and start to finish exactly. I mean,
he had a flow chart. When have you been in a repair shop with a flow chart?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I remember when we first got there, seeing all the Post-it notes on his whiteboard, and I thought, this guy's doing something different.
Yeah,
and
he's got a vision.
And he's using technology and really, it's just exciting to see, a business, and I don't want to, say that everyone's the same, but a business you don't typically think of as using new innovative approaches like auto repair.
Right.
Really kind of trying to go a little bit outside of the box.
Right. Very blue collar, kind of having a vision. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Warner Construction, another really interesting business, who's been able to kind of parlay their a lot of success they've had working with the church.
Yeah, the niche, very much a
niche. I mean, just a niche, but now they're able to take what they've learned and the systems they've developed working for the church and use that on other projects as well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun getting to know what all these businesses do and how they do things to set themselves apart.
It makes sense that there's contractors that specialize in things like that, but I never thought that there were contractors that were that specialized.
Right.
And that's really cool. It's really cool to meet new businesses and hear their stories. And of course, if you've got an interesting story about your business, we really encourage you to visit our website.
Absolutely, Chris. Go to our website, smalltolarge.com, and reach out to us. We actually do these spotlights as a service. There's no cost involved.
No tricks.
No tricks. No tricks up our sleeves.
Yeah.
No sleeves. So we want to help businesses to grow in Utah.
But you got to be small, which is under 500.
That's right. Under 500 employees, headquartered in Utah.
And we'd be happy to come out and spend a few minutes talking about the things that make your business unique. And that's really exciting to talk to all of these businesses all over
And then we'll be doing the workshops, of course, that we talked about at the
Yeah.
beginning of the hour, and how we're helping to.
And so
educate
watch the
small
website
businesses.
for announcements on the workshops.
Right.
If you want to reach out to us on social media, just click on one of the links at the top of our page, and you can tell us about a business, either your own business or some other business that you think that that should be spotlighted. And then also, if there's particular business topics that you'd be interested in hearing about, let us know.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there's things
Give us feedback.
There's things that we certainly haven't thought of. And tune in again next week, same time, same place for another edition of the Utah Small Business Hour. And just go out and have a great day.